Hi everybody, it's Lou Manfredini, Ace's home expert, and today's video is going to be about rescreening a patio door like this one in front of me. Now, redoing the screen on a patio door is very similar to that of doing a screen on a window frame, but the real critical point is the screening that you choose, as well as how tightly you pull that screen across. Now, the first thing you want to do is obviously measure the width of your door. And we're going to take a look at that, and it's a 36-inch door. When you head to the hardware store, you'll see that there's a bunch of different products you can buy as far as the type of screening. Fiberglass, aluminum, pet screen. For the sake of this demonstration, we're going to be using a fiberglass screen, and if you've never done any rescreening before, fiberglass is the easiest one to use. Now, a tip is, if you've never done this before, you want to usually buy a roll of screening that is at least a foot wider than what you need to install. So since this is 36 inches wide, this particular roll of black fiberglass is 48 inches. Gives you a little bit more when you kind of take it across of an overhang, so as you're orienting the screen, you don't worry about like it being a little cockeyed, and when we get to the end, the screen doesn't cover itself onto the frame. Place it on the work surface that you're going to be using, and then it's time to remove the screen. Now, around the perimeter of the frame, there is something called the spline. It's a small little kind of rubber tube that holds the screen in place. And you're going to go into the corner using a utility knife or a small screwdriver to kind of pop it out and then carefully remove it. If possible, you can actually reuse this spline, but if it's an older door, it may be that this is brittle and needs to be replaced. Don't worry, they sell this at your local Ace store. Just take the old spline with you because it does come in different sizes. Remove the spline all the way out, then grab the screen, pull it all the way out, and then discard it. Now, if that spline breaks as you pull it out, that's okay. You can either replace it or you can piece it together when you go to put it all back in there. Now, it's a good idea to then take a damp rag and sort of wipe out around the perimeter of the frame itself to clean it all up. Now, if there's any handles in the way that would be an obstacle when you're going to put the screen on, you want to go ahead and remove those. It'll just make your life a whole heck of a lot easier than trying to go around this when you're stretching the screen out. Then, using the appropriate screen that you choose to use, remember, about a foot wider than you need on that frame, you're going to unroll it and lay it over the top of the frame and orient it so that it's running parallel with the shape of the frame of the door. That way, when you start to put the spline in, it stays consistent and, you know, kind of the crisscrosses look good when it's all said and done. Now, what I like to do is start on the long end because I think it's the easiest way to kind of get a feel for how it's all going to work. And you're going to stretch that out, and you're going to start at one end using a spline tool. Kind of looks like a two-sided pizza cutter. One of the wheels is actually solid, and the other one has a little groove in it, and that groove is a really good way to kind of put the spline in place. With fiberglass screen, the fact that it's so flexible, you can usually do this all in one step. If you were doing aluminum, you would use that solid wheel to kind of make that groove and get the aluminum to fit in. But remember, fiberglass is always easier to use, and it is pretty durable as well. Okay, you're going to push this inside that little gap, and since I'm reusing this spline, there'll be some sort of shape there already that you've got, and I'm going to use the roll side so I can get right on top of this and then carefully, not too fast, but get that spline put right into that corner so that it gives you that hold that you're looking for. Now, you spread that out across that groove, kind of hold it in place, and then carefully you use that tool to drive the spline into the groove of the door. Now, this is critical because you want to kind of pull the spline a little tight, which makes it a little thinner and easier to go in, and you want to be careful about any ripples that could occur. And you also want to go slowly because if you slip and you go onto the screen like this, you could tear it, then you got to start all over again. Okay, now I'm coming around the corner, and this is the part here where we're going to establish the kind of right angle of the screen that we're putting in there. And you're going to kind of start here and then come back to the corner a little bit just to get it and press it in place. Remember, this is just a kind of a plastic tube, and if you somehow see a little ripple here that shouldn't be there, that's okay. You can take it out and put it back in. And so you just want to kind of pull this, keep this a little tight here as well, and just take your time and get all the way to that corner so that you've got a right angle completed on the screen. Now here is another kind of pro tip. When you get to that other side, when you're going to get it nice and tight, you don't want to pull too tightly, because if you do, depending on the frame of that door, you can actually bend it, actually bring it in, because that aluminum is so long. You need it tight, but not over tight. Before you cut off the excess screen, I want you to carefully take that wheel around the entire perimeter of the groove and just kind of gently push down on the spline to make sure that it's set. If there's any kind of ripples or anything that you see on this side of the spline, now's the time to take care of that, because once we cut this excess off, that's it. There's no more time for crying. So we got to make sure that that's nice and set and ready to go all the way around the perimeter. And again, be careful, because if you slip, you could cut the screen and have to start all over again. But once you get all the way around and the spline is set, take a look at that screen, make sure everything looks good, no ripples anywhere. Then take a sharp utility knife and carefully cut away the excess on the opposite side of the spline that's not part of the screen door. Okay, you got to be very careful now. This is a sharp utility knife, and we're going to place it on the edge of the screening here, and we're going to hold the door firmly, and we're going to start to cut that fiberglass screen away. This is what you're going to end up with when you're done, that kind of pulling away. And you don't want to go too quickly, because again, you do not want to slip with this knife. And just kind of cut it away to get that look that you want. Screen door fixed. You absolutely can do this yourself. It's easy to do, as you just saw in this video, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. With the right tools and know-how, you can get a lot done in and around your home. Now, if you need more advice, just talk to the friendly folks at your neighborhood Ace hardware store. And remember, many of our stores offer this very service, and so you can just bring this in and they'll do it for you as well. Because, as we all know, Ace is the helpful place.